knocking his head. Yeah, we are live. Wow.
All right, cool.
We got to let it breathe for a second. Yeah, exactly. Got to get the Mile High Huddle super fans page running here. So we're going to let it go. John, hurry up. We should time you. Honestly, we should put, he got the thumbs up. It's too quick.
All right. We're good to go. What's going on, Broncos country? It's a Saturday night, which means it's time for Mile High Insiders. I'm Luke Patterson, and with me, as always, is Nick Kendell. Nick, how you living, man?
I'm doing pretty well. Took the dog on a nice walk at the park today. The Olympic Mountains poked out. We haven't had sun for a week straight, so it poked out today. That was really nice. And been assembling an entertainment system. So it's been a good day. Ooh. Ready to talk some football. Also, the Iowa Hawkeyes clobbered the Penn State Nittany Lions. Just beat them up. So it's really good. They started off 0-2, 3-2 now. And also, I think Northwestern beat Wisconsin. So hats off to the nerds in Evanston. Man, you guys are playing great football.
Yeah, Melvin Gordon can't be happy about a lot of things, especially his Wisconsin Badgers getting beaten too. So I will take that. But we got to address the elephant in the room, if you will, Nick, with this whole Drew Lock thing, right? I mean, we saw an abysmal performance. I saw you and Carl hash some things out on Tuesday. I've been watching all the guys in your podcasts, and I wanted to get to it with you. I know you wanted to hash it out with me. We haven't talked about it all week, but before we do, tonight's live stream podcast is brought to you by sportsbetting.com. Broncos country, gambling is now legal in the state of Colorado. And here's what makes sportsbetting.com a no-brainer for all sports fans. Sharp odds and low juice. They have in-house bookmakers. They're not a third party of odds. Reduced juice, best prices. There's hassle-free bonuses with a one-time rollover, meaning the bonus money is yours after you bet it one time. Other sites, they range from 5 to 30 times. With sportsbetting.com, there is 24/7 live customer support, always a real person in the United States. Here's the kicker. At sportsbetting.com/Mile High Huddle, you can get a 100% risk-free week of sports betting up to $1,000. Not just one bet, but all of your bets. Play for a week, and if your losses exceed your winnings at the end of the week, sportsbetting.com/Mile High Huddle will cover 100% of the difference, up to $1,000 with a one-time rollover. So Broncos country, head on over to sports betting at www.sportsbetting.com/Mile High Huddle. That's www.sportsbetting.com/Mile High Huddle and capitalize on a risk-free week of sports betting up to $1,000. And Nick, before we talk about capitalizing and whether or not Drew Lock will capitalize on this opportunity, this is the Mile High Insiders. And you're Nick Kendell. I'm Luke Patterson. I'm happy to have everybody here on a Saturday night. We've got Zach in here, Rich in here, Cobra Commander. Guys, get at us at Mile High Insiders on Twitter at MHI_football pod. We've got a huge group tonight, which looks awesome. I'm seeing the comments. We got James, one of our own in here. James Campbell, what's up, buddy? We got Muhammad. We got some of our Super Chat superstars. As you see them, be sure to say hello and get your swag on. I've got a shirt on right now, and Nick, as you guys can see, has our awesome MHI hat. You can also go get other gear and all kinds of swag from huddleuppod.com. Get your swag on. Last week, we were able to see a few fans share some pictures on social media, Nick, and I really love that when I see our gear, the Huddle Up gear, building the Broncos, Dove Valley Deep Divers. When you see that gear on the fans and they're repping it and they're proud to rep it on social media, man, that gets me pumped. So without further ado, dude, I'm gonna turn it over to you real quick. If you want to give some quick shout outs, I want to shout out Chloe. I had an awesome conversation with Chloe. She's new to the Mile High Huddle community and has been joining in on a couple streams. And welcome, guys. If you guys haven't been with us before, welcome. We're pumped to have you.
Yeah, and I see a lot of familiar names here. We got Toy Mafia, CC in the house, Derek Wright. We got obviously Buwana working the ones and twos, as you like to say, behind the scenes. We got Richie Rich. We got Travis Burley in the house. We got the Itch. We got Mr. Zaninga coming in. Oh, Mohammed Badri, Travis Bruley, ZW Design. So a lot of familiar faces. James Campbell in the house from across the pond. We appreciate you guys. I know it's another year of the Broncos starting off 3-6, but the fact that we got this many people in here still working the chat, really do appreciate it that you guys could be here with us. So really, I mean, gosh, it's not the best for the Broncos, not the best football right now, but the Broncos country is still number one, not even close.
Dude, 3-6. You said it. And Nick,
They forced me. I just got to say, people have been getting really mad about hashtag Nick's Beer Fund.
It's on tonight. It's on tonight after that 3-6 start. You know, Nick, this is the fourth time the Denver Broncos have started 3-6. I mean,
in a row.
I just, it's awful, right? What can you say? Broncos country, they're mad, and they should be mad. They're frustrated. They feel like they've been sold a bill of goods. Some of them, others feel like, hey, just the world's not burning quite yet. You could be the Jets. We've got some wins. So we got to get through that. And I'm just going to come out and just say it. I mean, Drew Lock's performance, you said it, Carl said it, everybody said it. It was awful. I mean, Drew poked fun of himself the other day at the question, oh, did I throw 4 interceptions? It was awful. We could have the conversation. Do you think Drew Lock should have been benched or not? But that conversation's been had already. I'm done with it. That was the Raiders game. We're on to the Dolphins. And, it's almost like we're on to Cincinnati, as Bill Belichick would say. But we're on to the Dolphins, man. And you've got a young rookie quarterback who's winning some games. You've got a head coach that seems like the entire Miami Dolphins program is buying into. What do you make your initial impressions, Nick, of Drew Lock versus the Dolphins in Denver tomorrow?
Well, real quick, hello, Jay Boss. I think he was going to be really sad if we didn't say hello.
What's up, Jay?
To him as well. So good to see you, Jay. He had the sad face. Let's turn those frowns upside down. The Broncos have made enough frowny faces this year. Let's make some positivity, at least for now until we get into the game.
At least on this show, we're going to be positive and we're going to be happy.
We're going to try to be real, but I mean, gosh, you have to laugh through it. You can't take it too seriously. But again, the Dolphins playing an extremely good football, an offensive line that is not very good. They're beat up pretty much across the board. Their first round pick is out right now. A lot of undrafted guys and whatnot playing right now. Really the only weapon of choice that I would say really scares me is Devontae Parker, former first round pick. Mike Gesicki is an athlete, but he's kind of, for being such a good testing athlete, he kind of is a little bit stiff. It starts with the quarterback position for Miami and that defense. My gosh, if you're talking about a matchup for Drew Lock that could be very tough for him, it's this week. Brian Flores is calling as good of a defensive games right now. He's running a lot of 8 defensive back sets and creating different blitz packages and really confusing quarterbacks pre-snap. And if anybody's seen Drew Lock where he's struggled this year, it's been the pre-snap recognition, where to go with the ball, where the pressure is coming from, et cetera, et cetera. So Drew Lock's banged up. This is a very good Miami team. I can't think if there's a cornerback playing better than Byron Jones right now. Also for the Dolphins, he is playing incredible.
He's playing out of his mind.
Yeah, this is going to be a tough game for Drew Lock, and I know that I don't have very good expectations for him, I guess, in this singular game. So if he comes out and throws, let's say we'll call it 500 as far as interceptions to touchdowns go, I'll take it, because this Dolphins defense is playing about as good as any unit right now, especially considering they don't have premium talent across the board on the defense. It's coming. I mean, they got a top pick this year. Tua's coming. Dolphins versus the Bills these next couple of years is going to be fun, but we'll see where it goes.
That will be nice. It's nice to finally shake things up in the AFC East a little bit. And speaking of shaking things up, we want to get to you guys right now, because we want to make this show about Broncos country. So we've got Mohammed Badri coming in with a $5 super. Thank you so much for joining us, Mohammed. We're pumped to have you. Pumped to have you a part of the show. Somehow, I feel like Drew is going to play good tomorrow. Hashtag beast. And you know what I'm going to do? That's a hashtag for a Bawana beast and Drew Lock beast mode. Nick, I'm kind of like Mohammed. I took a nice little old man nap today. And before I took my old man nap, I had to pinch myself a little bit, because I had this feeling in my gut. I don't know if it was just hope of, man, what if it's a trap game for the Dolphins tomorrow? I mean, the Dolphins are rolling right now. They've got everything to lose. The Broncos are fluttering away, as it seems. But this injury with Drew Lock, man, this has been the talk of the town all week, in addition to his poor performance. It's that oblique, right, that he's dealing with. And one thing that I'm really worried about, Nick, is him putting on that rib protector. First of all, I'm worried about him getting the shot. I hope the Chargers doctor isn't giving him that injection, because then we're looking at a collapsed lung, and then you're Drew Brees. But it's just, hey, Pabby, good to see you. Thank you for being here. Hope you're well. Hope your dad's well. But for me, man, that the injury, the oblique for a quarterback, I was annoyed all week, Nick, because I feel like the Broncos were playing silly little games with Brett Rippon and the Miami Dolphins, and they're going to do that. But it's just like, man, this kid needs reps. I know he got more reps yesterday, was eased into it throughout the week, but a pulled oblique? Come on, Nick. I mean, is there that legitimate enough for him to be held out of practice? Because from what I'm seeing, he needs more practice.
I mean, I can't speak to the level of pain. It probably comes down to the individual guy, how much mobility they still have, how much they can gut through it, and if it's detrimental to the practice. Like if Drew Lock's out there, grounding balls because he's injured and, you're not getting the reps for the wide receivers or et cetera, there's a conversation to be had there. But as far as playing, I mean, we definitely need to see Drew Lock the rest of the season. I know that I've been real about how he's played this year. But I also think that a lot of people probably would interpret that as I'm out on Drew Lock. Not at all. I'm still ready for him these next few games. It's all Drew Lock for me. I don't need to see Brett Rippon. I know that he played well against the Jets, but he just does not have the tools. I think that's just the long and short of it. So Drew Lock, we need him out there. Obviously, we want him healthy. This is a tough defense that he's going to go against, but we need to evaluate him. He needs the reps to see what he can do. He's still got tools. I'm not over Drew Lock by any means, but there's no way you can say that he's not trending in the wrong direction, even if you can point at different issues on the Broncos offense and the team as a whole that make it not all Drew Lock's fault. Simply put, he's got to play better.
Nick, I stand with you in that, man. And I think it's okay to be undecided on Drew Lock right now. It's been a bizarre year for obvious reasons, and he's dealt with some injuries. I don't think Pat Shurmur is doing him any favors. I don't think Vic Fangio is doing the team any favors. And some could argue same with John Elway, but that's just, those are all things of a bad football team. And to say that, to put the weight of this bad football team strictly on Drew Lock, I feel like is irresponsible, because I don't believe it's all of his fault. I am disappointed. I think he's a little immature. That's where I'm disappointed more with behavior rather than play on the field. I'm expecting interceptions from a young quarterback. I'm not expecting four of them in a game, but the smirk on the sideline, and we're human, right? We're imperfect creatures. So I'm not going to judge him completely for that, but he was a little, he joked about the 4 picks and stuff like that. But I thought at times he comes off a little immature. I think he's tough. I think Drew wants to play. I think Drew probably wanted to practice, and the coaches have been holding him out. So in no way do I think that Drew is trying to be soft or not be a part of this Broncos game plan for the week. But man, what another missed opportunity for me. Like, I hope maybe the film room. I mean, that's the place where Drew Lock needs the most help right now in picking up blitzes. Miami's going to stack the box, Nick. I mean, you said it. Flores he's going to be throwing 7 different shades of smoke at Drew Lock. And Drew's got to figure out where it's coming from and get rid of it. Now, I think if they run the ball, that's going to help Drew Lock a lot. And it doesn't need to be a Phillip Lindsay versus Melvin Gordon thing. I guess it's going to be both of them. But yeah, man, it's the weight of the world is not on Drew Lock's shoulders for the loss, but how is he going to respond to the worst performance of his career?
And just, I mean, he got the poop beat out of him last week too, against a Raiders defense that, let's be honest, their pass rush has been anemic. Their ability to take away the ball has been horrible. And the Broncos made them look like a top 10 defense. So,
they doubled their turnovers by the second quarter, I think it was, right?
Yep, it was bad. And the Broncos, I know a lot of people are making, Vic Fangio is supposed to be this brilliant defensive mastermind, but when you're out, I guess, Shelby Harris and Mike Purcell, you're getting beat up in the front, and your quarterback is turning over the ball left and right. It's pretty hard to hold teams under 30 points. I mean, 4 turnovers, you can't do it. So I don't really put that much on Vic Fangio as far as the defense giving up that many points, because a lot of it has to do with how often you're turning the ball over. But again,
I got to push back real quick there, and then I'll let you have the floor, just because I have a problem with Vic Fangio with his personnel. 10 guys on the field, 9 guys on the field. That really bugs me. I don't know if that's an Ed Donatel thing, because Ed hasn't been there for those health reasons. That's just kind of a result of a terrible football team. So that I do put on Vic Fangio, because if you're supposed to be this defensive mastermind and this defensive guru, why are you rolling 9 guys out there? And you've got, was it Malik Reed who came sprinting on last second? Those bother me, Nick. Those really bother me. And that's inexcusable. I mean,
yeah, I will push back a little bit. I think it's a little bit excusable just because you've had so much turnover on the defense. You lost your signal caller and Todd Davis. You've been shuffling cornerbacks all year because of injuries. And now the defensive front is just, I mean, it's just, there's no depth anymore. You've lost your 2 hogs up front. You've lost Von Miller, obviously. Atauchi has been dealing with injury all season, and they just look soft up front. I mean, the Raiders last week, they're missing both their tackles. The interior offensive line was injured as well for the Raiders. They played a Hudson and the right tackle whose name is escaping me, Gabe Jackson. They were both dinged up as well, but the Raiders took it to him last week and they just punched him in the mouth repeatedly. It was a rock fight. Josh Jacobs brings that type of
You're right.
running style too. And the Broncos just were soft. I mean, they eventually relented. And I think a lot of that has to do with how often they were turning the ball over. So, you can blame the defense, you can blame the offense, but there's so much connectivity between those two units. And when you're turning over the ball like that, I just have a really hard time getting super upset at the defense.
Yeah, I can't excuse 4 picks. You're exactly right. I mean, 4 picks puts your whole team in a bad spot, let alone just the defense. So you're exactly right there. And then that offensive line, man, every time you say soft, it hurts me because that's what this team is. I mean, it's disappointing. It's hurtful. It's embarrassing, but that's what it is. And speaking of it is what it is, Mark's going to let us know what it is. I've been betting on Denver every week in my 6-teamers. I have Miami on all my tickets this week. I swear, if my team pulls this out of their butts, I won't know how to feel. Mark's got some twisted, conflicted feelings, much like Broncos country right now, Nick. And I know we were talking about Drew Lock a little bit and him being banged up. What's the plan for Drew against these Dolphins? I mean, you got a sore quarterback who's coming off of his worst performance ever. His confidence is shaken. His body is shaken. Maybe some questions in the locker room. I don't know. I haven't heard anything. I'm just guessing. Look at if Broncos country saying Brett Rippon should be playing, and we're all human beings. I'm wondering how many players think, hey, maybe Brett, we should see Brett. Now, I will say this about Brett. I like Brett Rippon. I think he's going to be a career backup. I think he's got a shot at being a coach in the NFL. To say that he definitely will is a stretch because it's very hard to do that. But he doesn't have enough mustard under that ball, Nick. I mean, there's just so much air in that ball. He's got the above the shoulders acumen, but to call for Brett Rippon over Drew Lock would just be an absolute waste of the season. I think it actually hurts Brett Rippon as well.
And that would be the end of Drew Lock. If they conceded that, unless there was an injury, that would be, I think, the end of Drew Lock. And then you are squarely in the quarterback market this offseason. And I don't think the Broncos are ready to say that. I'm definitely not ready to say that. I mean, let's be honest. Drew Lock is playing as bad as any quarterback in the NFL right now. But I still come back to, I think he's got the intangibles. I know he has the arm talent. He's not just kind of a statue back there in the pocket. There are ways for Drew Lock to succeed. There are tools. It's just really the whole process right now is ugly. I mean, you can blame the offensive line, and a lot of people will. There's injuries. It's a weird offseason. Pat Shurmur's not tailoring the offense to him. Granted, I feel like what Pat Shurmur's doing is like very vanilla, basic kind of stuff that any quarterback worth their salt would be able to execute. And Drew Lock just can't right now. So, I mean, there's a lot of things to blame. I honestly think the biggest issue so far, right, is how bad the interior offensive line has sucked. And Drew Lock, when he feels pressure, this is in college too, he could handle an offensive tackle blowing an assignment, escaping the pocket. But when the interior offensive lineman, when the interior offensive line is as bad as it has been this year, Drew Lock starts to feel that interior pressure. He starts to throw off his back foot. The clock starts to speed up in his head. The mechanics go to the wayside, and that leads to bad throws, bad accuracy, bad process. So, I mean, again, interior offensive line, Lloyd Cushenberry, rookie. We've talked about it many times. Dalton Reiser's not played that well this year. And Graham Glasgow, I mean, I was excited about the sign. I thought he'd be solid. I feel like he's been not horrible, but definitely not lived up to a big contract expectations kind of thing. So, again, I think Drew Lock's got to play better, but there's plenty of blame.
We were both high on Graham Glasgow. We thought that was a solid signing. And just like Jarrell Casey, we were through the moon with Jarrell Casey, but no, man, Graham Glasgow. Yeah, that's been, I'm not going to say a disappointment, but it hasn't lived up to the hype. Lloyd Cushenberry, Nick, I was so premature on this cat because I was so excited to get a starting center from the SEC. Man, the game film, this is one of his worst games. And Calvin Anderson, when Coach Fangio came out, and I know I'm bashing the Raider game a little bit, and I said I wouldn't, but I just got to get it out of my system. When Calvin Anderson was out there, Nick, it was awful, just like everything else has been for the Broncos right tackles. And Coach Fangio saying, look, man, I thought he played okay. I'm like, you thought he played okay? I mean, good Lord, the interior pressure, the perimeter pressure. I mean, it's just awful. You can't get the left side of the offensive line to communicate a fan call on a hot blitz, and all these other things. It's just, it drives me crazy, but you're exactly right, Nick. You can't put it all on the offensive line.
The Raiders last week were down to their third and fourth string offensive tackles. Tua's offensive line has been horrible, and he hasn't had an offseason to deal with. It's all the COVID excuses, a new offense, blah, blah, blah.
Excuses.
Eventually,
Exactly.
the quarterback has to play better. Boom.
Yeah, and Buwan, if we could get that up there, Brian's comment real quick, as he was chiming in on Graham Glasgow as well, because that's something else that I think a lot of people aren't talking about. We're talking about Garrett Bowles, Pro Football Focus. Yeah, he's the greatest person ever. I got it. But Lloyd Cushenberry, he's having struggles. Dalton Risner, as Vic Fangio would call him, drove me nuts, Nick. Some people say I'm just having to get off my lawn moment, but know your players' names. Richie Rich coming in here. Glasgow, I missed that, is playing average at best. We completely agree with you, Richie. I mean, we gotta see something better here. And Mike Munchak, I think, has his hands full. I'm not going to put this on the coaching unit. I think it's kind of a personnel thing. When, like you said, Nick, you got guys dropping left and right. What do you expect? But the good news, I guess, Elijah Wilkinson has been activated. He'll be a backup guard, tackle. I expect DeMar Dotson to be at the right tackle for sure. What do you think about right guard if Graham Glasgow's not playing?
I definitely think that's Wilkinson's better spot. I mean, he's pretty darn good in the run game. He can move people. It's just he gets beat on that outside shoulder time and time again. He just does not have the foot speed to do it. So I really think it's kind of like the Billy Turner syndrome, where he's out there at right tackle. He's doing, you don't love it, but then all of a sudden he's at guard, and it's like, well, why weren't we doing this the whole time? So that's kind of where I'm at with Elijah Wilkinson. Hello, Robert Skinner. Good to see you there. So that's what I'm thinking. Glasgow is probably more ideal. Honestly, if Cushenberry continues to struggle, maybe you talk about moving Glasgow to center and then Wilkinson to right guard. I know everybody's excited about Moody, but you're talking about a rookie and one that was drafted, sixth round?
Yeah,
So
he's a project.
He's a project. He's a guy. You need to leave him in the fermentation chamber for a season. We'll see what we have next year with him, in my opinion, is what you do. And people are talking about moving him to tackle. It's not happening. He has like sub 32-inch arms.
Who did they want to move to tackle?
Moody played tackle at Fresno State.
Oh, no.
So people think
he cannot play tackle in the NFL. There is no lateral mobility, as you know, Nick.
And he's got he would literally have the shortest arm length of any tackle ever recorded that have gone through the combine to the NFL. It's just not happening. He's an interior player. So, but we'll see what happens. I know that Wilkinson struggled. A lot of people have opinions about him, but at least it's more somewhat competent depth. I mean, you're not seeing Jake Rodgers out there. And also maybe it'll help the run game more. I mean, we're talking about that. Drew Lock's injured. This is a game where the Broncos, as much as it kills me to say, they probably really need to lean on the run game and try to keep it ugly, slow paced. Kind of like when, this is kind of a throwback for you March Madness fans out there, but when Butler was playing underneath Todd Licklider, the head coach, and they were kind of playing those really slow games, passing it around and chucking up the ball with 1 second left on the 35-second shot clock. That's kind of what the Broncos have to do this week with the run game. Just slow it down, make sure that they are protecting Drew Lock that way, and make it an ugly game. Win it in an ugly way if they're going to have a chance.
Yeah, it's they have to run the ball here. They have to run the ball, and I don't know what it's going to take for Vic Fangio to get involved on the offensive side of the ball, whether that's, screaming at Pat Shurmur in the headset, hey, man, I don't want you passing 25 times in the first half and only handing the ball off to Philip Lindsay 4 times. I mean, I need Vic Fangio to help his defense a little bit, help yourself a little bit by getting that offense. I mean, sometimes a guy needs a good kick in the rear end, and Pat Shurmur's obviously Vic's boy. I mean, he wanted to get rid of Scangarello for Pat. I don't think that was an Elway decision at all. This was a Vic Fangio decision. And, I think John Elway, to either his credit or discredit, should be acknowledged for that. So many times, John Elway's been accused, and rightfully so sometimes, and other times not rightfully so, of jamming these coaches, these offensive coordinators, down these head coaches' throats. So to John's credit, he's took a step back, said, all right, Vic, you get your guy. Well, Vic's got his guy, and he's not communicating with his guy. Like you said, Nick, we have got to see the running game. The running game is going to set up play action. I would love to see a screen pass. That'd be nice. I mean, you want to talk about getting your young quarterback involved. Try a screen for the love of God on third and. I mean, we've got to do something different, because it's ugly. And speaking of ugly, we got one of the OGs up in here, Kenneth Booker. He is not ugly at all, but his comment, well, they excel at playing ugly, laugh out loud, with a 199 super. And Kenneth, I get it, man. And I, just like you, I was poking fun of him in a nasty, disgusting way last Sunday. I was wanting to fall asleep a little bit there because it got so ugly. I hurt, Nick. You hurt. This is not what we're used to seeing. Man, how do they turn it around? Where do you go from here? Because the question is, have the Broncos hit rock bottom? For me, no, they haven't, because that would mean things are going to get better. Where did the Broncos go from here?
Forward. They really have no choice but to go forward, whether it be injured or not. So we'll see what happens. And good comment there, Booker. Thank you very much. Good to see you. And also Charlie Beagle in the house as well. Charlie, guys, add us on Facebook. Find us on Facebook.
Yeah.
Obviously, Nick Kendell, MHH. We also got John on Facebook. We got JT coming in now. If we lose to the Finns, we need to shut Fant down IMO. He's getting banged up and not recovering fully. He has all great potential. We will ruin him. Yeah, Fant does not look right. I've heard from around the bush that Fant's ankle is pretty darn dinged up. And if the Broncos were not trying to develop a quarterback right now, they might shut down Fant. And honestly, next 3 games, the Broncos fall to 3-9, you might see Fant shut down for the season with ankle surgery. So we'll see what happens there. But he is definitely not 100%, and it sucks. But that's where we're at.
Do you hear that, Broncos country? That's Nick saying it nicely. I'll go ahead and say it. Noah Fant's out there with one leg. I mean, the guy is not right. I've eaten crow in the past. I labeled him a bust way too early based off what I saw with his immaturity and stuff last year. But man, I questioned his toughness last year. I don't question it this year. I think at times, from some things that I've also heard, that the coaches feel like they have to play Noah, not only for Drew's development, but to kind of get a return on their investment. And it sounds weird when it's his second year tight end who's hurt at 3 and 6, and you're wanting to see how tough he is when he's out there with one leg. I have a problem with that, because that's not, you talk about a guy who needs some practice off. Can Noah Fant sit out? I don't quite remember, seeing him as did not practice. I could be mistaken there, but Noah Fant, I would like to see him maybe get a vet day or two. The guy's out there on one leg, Nick, and his toughness and stuff. I love it. I think he's grown to be very mature. I don't think he's a leader, and that's okay. Not all players are. But
he's young. I think he's like 22. It was just his birthday today or yesterday. So there's still time for him to be a leader.
He's got kind of a goofy personality, and some guys, gravitate towards that and others don't. But I like Noah Fant a lot, and I hope the guy stays healthy. That's a great comment.
Yeah, we got Pabby coming in. Speaking of great comments, love the positivity you guys bring. Thank you all for what you do. Go Broncos. Go Pabby as well. Back in the homeland of the great state of Iowa. Go Hawks. Good to see you, Pabby. Really do appreciate it. So, yeah, it's a bummer. I mean, the Broncos lost your guy, Albert Okwuegbunam, who will be back next year. Looks confident. I mean, that's, again, one thing. It sucks right now. We'll call it as is. The Broncos watching their games can be a little bit painful right now, but you do have a lot of talent coming back next season. So that's a positivity, something positive that you can look forward to.
Nick,
I know it sucks,
me, brother. You're killing me. We got more football, and I know. You're trying to build me up because I was. Yeah, exactly. And Nick was. You guys should have seen us in the green room before we started the show. Nick, he'll serenade us with his musical talents one day. Maybe we'll get a bet or something going. But as we get back to the comments here, we got Ashton coming in here. What's up, Ashton? Hope you're doing well. Looks like you're a photographer that enjoys the outdoors. Nick and I are all about that as well. So get at us, man. We love hearing from you guys. What happened to the hype around our tight end room? Underwhelming stuff. Is that coaching? No, it's not, Ashton. There's a curse on the Broncos tight end room. If you were a Big Ten tight end and you become a Denver Bronco, you will be hurt and you will forever waste away in that training room. And it's frustrating to see. Speaking of tight ends, we know Troy Fumagalli is going to be active in this one. With Noah Fant, Nick Vannett, and Troy Fumagalli. And I liked Troy Fumagalli when he first came out, thought there was some potential there, and then it just kind of fell off the edge. I thought Austin Fort had more momentum building into the season a couple years ago, and he's kind of fell off from there too. What's going on with the Broncos tight end, Nick? I mean, we had a million of them, right? And only one of them is playing, and he's playing on one leg.
I mean, once Alberto Okwuegbunam went down and took a lot of the wind out of the sails, Jake Butt, there was a lot of people recognize the name. They're really pulling for him, but he's really been just a body out there. He doesn't really block really well, and he doesn't have much separation ability. So if you have a good quarterback, he can be a solid safety blanket, but I don't think he's really a playmaker how the Broncos would need right now, considering how the passing game is struggling. Nick Vannett, I actually think his blocking has been doing better. He has a role, but for what the Broncos paid him, it's really a lateral move from Jeff Hireman. and you got Noah Fant on one leg. So it sucks, but that's where we're at. So yeah.
Yeah, and we got Booch coming up in here with a quick comment, something that you brought up earlier, Nick. Oops, I missed it up there. Buono, sorry. This is why I should not be messing with this stuff. There was a comment in there basically talking about the Miami Dolphins and their strength in corners.
Yeah.
Cornerback's going to eat. Dog's going to eat, like Aqib Talib used to say. And, speaking of Aqib, what'd you make of his call the other night, man? Did you get to hear any of that?
Miami game?
No, Aqib Talib was on the
Detroit game.
Yeah, he was on the Detroit Lions game. That last former Denver Bronco Matt Prater kicked that 59-yard field goal, I believe it was.
I think so. Yeah, I really like Aqib Talib. His voice is a little bit high. I think something doesn't really have that broadcaster voice. It's a little high, you know. But he's I enjoy him. He's a funny guy.
There's
awesome. No way about it. He's got a lot of personality.
Love Leave. We all love Leave. And speaking of cornerbacks, Cobra Commander's been patiently waiting, and we wanted to make sure we got to you, Cobra, because this is a big one. Is Bryce Callahan playing? Nick, what have you heard about Bryce Callahan? We know that he had an illness, some bizarre illness that hasn't been fully disclosed. We know it's not the illness, but he was back at walkthrough a little bit. I project him to play. What are you hearing?
I think he will play, but I mean, it could be a surprise scratch like we had against the Falcons game. So I'm curious to hear what's going on there with him. I mean, who knows? Last time we had this kind of surprise illness, it was the Melvin Gordon post DUI stuff. So I'm hoping there's nothing behind the scenes there, but it will be interesting to see what happens. So
the Melvin
I think
Gordon,
they need him.
Yeah, they need him. The Melvin Gordon post DUI strep throat. All right. He had strep throat, and that's why he didn't travel to Miami or to New England rather. But you're exactly right, Nick. I mean, I hope he's there because he's the best Broncos defender right now, in my opinion. I mean, he's shocked me. His health has shocked me. So knock on wood for this illness that he's feeling well. And as long as it's not a foot injury, I'm okay with it. Let's get him hydrated. Let's get him some sleep, some soup, whatever it's going to take, man. And let's get Bryce Callahan out there. Here's a problem that I've got. Why didn't we see our boy last weekend, Michael Ojemudia? I was shocked, Nick, shocked. I mean, the biggest pushback I'm going to give you or anybody who's saying that, it's not Vic. Why would you take that man out of the game? Not even put him in the game. To me, the tackling was an issue. As saying Bassey can't cover anything right now. And we're taking Michael Ojemudia out because of a tackling issue. Do you think there was something else, or have you heard anything? Because I can't figure out why 2-3 is not in the game. He's been one of my favorite guys. I know you've had your eyes on him for many, many years. What do you make of Michael Ojemudia?
I am still befuddled by that, and I know that the Raiders have a trio of speed weapons in Nelson Aguilar, Henry Ruggs, and Darren Waller. So Michael Ojemudia, who is a bigger player, but I wouldn't say that he is the loosest of hips at the cornerback position. He can get beat down the field. So when you have those speed weapons out there, maybe there's some sort of decision being made on the schematic front, but it just does not make sense to me. I really don't understand what's going on. So I would hope to see him this week, but who knows? Maybe there is something behind the scenes there. And he struggled. There's no doubt about that. I think he was pretty good, obviously, early in the season, but the Falcons game, I thought he struggled. The game before that, he struggled as well. So there is reason for, I guess, a little bit of, he's being taken off the field because he's not playing the best football as of late. But how could you have that going on? You're taking him off the field when your other third-round pick that's seen a majority of time right now, Lloyd Cushenberry, might be your worst starter out there. At least your worst starter who has not been taken off the field, or your worst starter from the opening day that's still out there. Obviously, there's some really depth players that are out there now, but I don't get it. I don't know what's going on, and especially with the Broncos being this bad this season, play your young guys, put them out there. They're gonna mess up. Who obviously you care, but you have to live with it. This team is not going to the playoff. Play your young guys.
Right. It's reps, right? Everything in life is about reps. I don't care if it's podcasting, if it's football, whatever your trade is, or your profession, or your job, or education, school, a craft, whatever you're doing. If you're not doing that on a consistent basis, you can't expect to be better. And that's the exact same thing with Michael Ojemudia. Vic Fangio is robbing this young man of becoming better and going through some of those tribulations when he just ghosts him like he did against the Raiders. I don't expect to see that in this game.
No.
A quick housekeeping thing is I know Bawana preps all of our stuff on kind of a rundown fashion. Elijah Holder was called up, defensive back from the practice squad, so we will see him. Josh Watson will be playing, undrafted. Yep, undrafted free agent out of CSU. Liked his play last week. He also got beat a little bit last week. Now, easy with the dancing and the yelling on a special teams tackle or whatever that is. You guys suck. So take it easy there. And Troy Fumagalli, obviously up in there. We talked about Eli Wilkinson activated as a backup. Ed Donatel, Nick, and I know we're going to get back to the quarterback situation in just a second, but I want to talk about Ed Donatel because Ed Donatel is going to be out, and this is kind of, I guess, our last little wrap up of the defense, and we'll get back to the meat and potatoes of Drew Lock. Vic's Boo has been out for a couple of weeks now, and thoughts and prayers to Ed Donatel. It sounds like he is out of the woods and feeling better. Definitely sounds like he got very, very ill, but when you don't have your best friend there, your wingman that you've worked with for years, I mean, maybe does that contribute to 9 men on the field, 10 men on the field? I mean, some of those things that you rely on are no longer there. So while I'm not making excuses, I think that there's a definite disconnect without Ed Donatel there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's been an issue for them. So, it's just the Broncos aren't the only ones that are having to deal with these issues this season. So while you can make excuses for it, it's not an excuse for Miami's team, who's playing extremely well. It's not an excuse for all these other teams who are succeeding right now. So it's a level playing field. So you can point at things, but it's not like it's only happening to the Broncos. Now the injuries are happening more so to the Broncos. The only team maybe having more are the 49ers, but still, at some point you got to overcome adversity. There's a lot of adversity in the NFL. That's kind of the name of the game. And if you can't do it, guess what? You're gone. So I don't know. I'm getting really tired of the excuses.
Me too.
All the way across the board. It's another year of excuses. And I understand people are looking for reasons to support their team. I get that. You kind of have to. That's human nature. But at some point, you got to call a spade a spade. They're young, but this team is not good right now. They're injured. This team is not good right now. People are complaining about Pat Shurmur. The players aren't executing. So it's just, it's one thing after another where at some point, you got to stop making excuses. Have some accountability and either play better or shut up.
Yeah, there we go. That I can co-sign that. Play better or shut up. Exactly. Because you know what, Nick? I'm sick of the losing, but even more so, I'm sick of the post-game press conferences of the same thing. Dalton Reisner, we're not going to dwell on it. We're going to get better. I don't know what happened. Drew Lock, we can't do this anymore. It's just awful. And he looks dejected like someone ran over his dog. I mean, it's just, when is there going to be is there a rallying cry? I mean, I know that this team does great at halftime speeches. That seems to be their thing. When they're winning, they're the best dancers ever. But it's just, let's be honest. The Denver Broncos are the drama queen of the NFL right now. When they win a game, they think they're it. And when they lose a game, it's just the worst thing ever. And we don't know why. We don't know what happened. It just happened. We don't know. And that's just the frustrating thing for me until the Broncos are willing to look in the mirror and accept that they suck right now. I don't see anything changing. And the biggest thing for me is trust. I don't see a lot of trust on this team. I don't know where anyone trusts each other. There's so many holes on this team. And when you look at quarterback, trust is one of the biggest things. You have got to trust your quarterback from a coaching perspective, and the players on the field have to trust Drew Lock to get the ball down the field, to get 1st and 10s, to lead them. Do you expect to see a comeback moment from Drew Lock, or do you think all of these things that are piling up on the young quarterback's shoulders, including an injury, are going to lead to a potential collapse?
I don't think you're going to see a total collapse because I think this team has enough guys, vets that know what they're doing. I don't think Vic Fangio we're not going to see a Vance Joseph, Josh McDaniels level of just total blow up, instability, lack of institutional control, throwing out an NCAA term there. That said, all this stuff, shit rolls downhill, right? So it all starts with the ownership situation right now, the Broncos, or lack thereof, and the lack of direction, identity, knowing what they're doing, and accountability, all that stuff. It rolls downhill from there. So until that stabilizes, until we have a firm solution there, Broncos are probably going to be swimming around. They have one paddle in the water with a canoe, just spinning in circles. Why aren't we going anywhere? We're putting all this work in. Got to have both oars working together. So that's not the case right now for the Broncos. It's going to continue that way. I'm not, again, I think we got to come back to the Drew Lock conversation here. I'm not ready to give up on Drew Lock. I mean, we've said it again. He's not Josh Allen. I know a lot of people are pointing at Josh Allen's stats versus Drew Lock, and that drives me nuts because they're different quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I mean, they really are. Like Josh Allen is much more like Cam Newton, where Drew Lock is much more of a Derek Carr, Andy Dalton, in my opinion, and he's not playing well right now. So
I agree with that.
He has tools. He has tools. I'm not ready to give up on him, and he has, 6 or 7 more games this year where he could play better and do enough to get another season next year. I think that's very possible. I'm not ready to give up on Drew Lock because of those tools and the flashes that we've seen. But the level of play he's going right now, the direction he's trending towards right now, it's just not going to cut it. And for a team with a coach in a hot seat, Vic Fangio, progressively seat's getting hotter. John Elway seat getting hotter. I just don't know how they could go into next season trusting Drew Lock with the way he's playing right now. They're going to be coaching and working for their jobs. I mean, even Elway at this point, who's the Duke of Denver, but like at this point, a lot of people are ready to move on from Elway. So are they going to trust Drew Lock if he's continuing to play at this level? I don't know how they can. I do not know how they can.
It's going to be interesting on Sunday, tomorrow, hours away from kickoff, because this will be the last game that fans are allowed. Now, I don't have a specific number on how many fans will be there, but can someone ask Philip Lindsay or Drew Lock if fans are allowed to boo if they don't like what they're seeing? Because that's all I heard with the Chargers, right, 2 weeks ago. Settle down. You guys booing too early. Whoa, whoa, whoa. And Philip Lindsay, well, you guys are analysts and media, so y'all can't play the game. Y'all don't know. Okay, you're right. I can't play in the NFL, not even close. So you got me there. But dude, when you guys are saying stuff like that and then you roll out the performances you have, I mean, you guys are just putting unnecessary attention and targets on your back. You guys do not need that. You guys need to be quiet. You guys need to just shut up and come together internally, work together. Somehow they need to find some common ground. And I wonder about that, Nick. And I know that we're in a socially distant time right now and things like that, but how many of these guys are communicating with each other off the field? I hear so much and so many stories from successful teams that carry relationships off the field. And that doesn't mean you have to go to dinner with them. It doesn't mean you need to be at each other's houses, but like guys that are constantly texting, asking each other questions, FaceTiming, those type of things. That's trust. That's building trust. That's building a relationship. I want to see that with the Broncos because it's all good when everybody's winning. Everybody loves each other. But when people are losing in an embarrassing fashion, like the Broncos were against the Raiders, that's when you see disappointment and frustration come through on all levels. 2 quick examples. Jerry Jeudy, that 2-point conversion, complete lack of effort. I chalk that up to frustration. He's been frustrated for weeks. How can he not be? The guy's been open, and I expect better of him. I'm willing to give him a little bit of a pass there. It was just the whole thing was FUBAR against the Raiders, so I'm willing to give him a little bit of a pass. You got Tim Patrick out there throwing hands with the Raiders, getting ejected. Yeah, you can't have that. I mean, there's just so many distractions right now on this team. So for me, Drew Lock tomorrow, be yourself. Play the way you're going to play confident, but try something different. I mean, don't go away from, if Drew Lock loves going to the right, Nick, then let's go to the right. Let's go to the right. Let's do it, because asking him to climb the pocket isn't working right now. It's not working. You've got Taysom Hill, who's coming in for the Saints, and they're going to be rolling out a whole nother offense for him. And I'm sure at times you might see Jameis Winston throw a couple deep balls. So don't tell me that Sean Payton is willing to reconstruct an offense for two other quarterbacks when his starting quarterback is down, and Pat Shermer's not willing to do the same for Drew Lock. He has those things there. We've seen those flashes. And when I say flashes and you say flashes, I know you're not referring to Houston last year. I know you're referring to several passes in the Raider game. It was awful. It was bad, but there were some good passes there too. I mean, so NFL quality throws. So it's just so frustrating with Drew Lock because you see the highs, you see the lows. I'm looking for something just mid-level.
Competence.
Yeah. Progression.
A reason to believe. And right now it's just not out there. So, well, again, we still have many more games left. We'll see what happens. And hopefully it'll continue to get better. We got Kenneth Booker coming in here speaking about getting better. Should have Talib on. His pod only has 2K followers. I would love to have Talib on.
Oh, dude, yeah. I don't know if we can DM that, but if we could somehow make that happen, I would absolutely love it. To Leave's a dog. I love Leave. Did you hear Leave's story about Crabtree and the chain and wanting to give his chain to the dog?
No, I didn't.
So I guess the second time when he yanked the chain, he was trying to keep it and he wanted to give Crabtree's like $60,000, $70,000 chain to his dog and like post it on Twitter and stuff. And it's Leave, right? It's Leave being Leave. Yeah. But one thing he had in Leave was a fighter, and I want to see that fight out of my quarterback. I don't want to see him down in the strip club shooting himself in the foot, but I want to see that fight. I want to see some sort of some rallying as a team. You see the offense and Drew and the quarterbacks sitting off, disconnected. Nick, at times I feel like Brett Rippon is more animated than Mike Shula with the pad and talking to Drew and stuff like that. But man, I remember watching Jake Plummer go down after throwing an interception to the defense. And dude, my bad. I'll get us out there. That's me. That's on me. And communicating with the defense. He'd go out to dinner with the defense. It was a connection thing. And the defense wanted to play for that quarterback. When you've got a head coach in Vic Fangio that's just so stout in his defense, there just seems to be two different teams on one team right now. You've got an offense, you've got a defense, and then you've got the worst special teams unit ever.
Yeah, and I mean, I think football is a simple game, right? Like it's not, we always talk about the complications, but right now the Broncos almost every week have the worst quarterback on the field of the two, which is hurting them. And also they're getting beat up in the trenches on both sides of the ball now. The offensive line is typically getting outperformed by the opposing team's defensive line, and the Broncos defensive line is getting outperformed by the other team's offensive line. And until those things can turn around, and granted, I don't think the defensive line's fault is completely because of how the team was built. I mean, they're very injured right now. You're playing some very light players that need a lot of snaps. Marcus Walker, Draymond Jones. Draymond Jones has been playing pretty darn well also.
Yeah, not bad.
But they're just getting beat up right now. They just do not have the depth. They don't have the bodies. And when you're dealing with that every single week, you're going to not only lose games, you're going to get demoralized. Because the quarterback play makes it frustrating to watch, and then you're just getting physically beat up front every week. So I don't know. I'm at a loss for words. I know the Broncos have, and I had no issue with it last year, investing in the wide receivers. Those guys I think are going to be huge for the Broncos in the next couple seasons. I mean, if let's say it's not Drew Lock, a quarterback could walk in next year, and Cortland Sutton being back and the weapons that they have, this could be pretty darn good with a veteran quarterback, as long as you have the health coming back with the defensive side as well. I mean, competent at least. I think probably a 500 club rather than this classic constant ineptitude that we've seen the last few seasons. But with how the Broncos are getting beat in the trenches right now, maybe I'm just a little bit down in the dumps after that Raiders game because those Raiders whooped the Broncos in the trenches. And the quarterback play, it's going to be impossible to win football games.
Dude, they've ragdolled Philip Lindsay. Ragdolled him. I mean, they looked like the Pittsburgh Steelers defensive line out there. I'm like, the Raiders, who are these guys? I'm like, who are these guys? Some of them I didn't even know who they were. And you're exactly right. Now, some of that's effort, some of that's technique, some of it's circumstance, and both. But no, you're right. Offensive line hasn't been well. But I could also
specifically, everybody poops on the right tackle, and that's been an issue for years. But the Broncos had one of the better run blocking interior offensive lines in football many of the last few seasons, and they've just really struggled this season. I don't know how much of that is Cushenberry, Reisner not playing well, Glasgow not living up to what you'd hope, but the interior offensive line is just struggling so much, and they can't run the ball because of it. Drew Lock's falling off his back foot because of it. It's just bad.
Well, and a lot of it, Nick, is because the offense is so freaking predictable. When Drew Lock is under center, it's a run every time because his footwork, they refuse to do, let's run play action when we've only rushed the ball 4 times. That'll get him. I mean, come on, Pat Shermer. Melvin Gordon, yeah, okay, he had a few good runs, but watch Melvin Gordon. He runs into the back of his offensive lineman every time and spins out of it on the line of scrimmage. You'll see it tomorrow. It makes no sense. We had a quick comment. If you want to throw that back up there, Bawana, from Kenneth Booker with a 199 super. Appreciate it, Kenneth. Do any of our free agents leave because of the state of the team? Ooh, that's a good question. Man. Well, speaking of running backs, Philip Lindsay, I think he's going to put up a stink. I know he's not. He's a restricted free agent. Is that right?
Yeah, he'll be back. The real question is, are Melvin Gordon's guarantee is going to be ruled ineligible, or so they can move on from him and then maybe transfer some of that money over. But I probably was as harsh on the signing of Melvin Gordon as anyone, and I'm not a huge Philip Lindsay stan. I think that the people who are like, oh, just give the ball to Philip Lindsay more, that'll solve everything. Oh my God, no, that doesn't solve everything. It's way more complex than that. But I thought Melvin Gordon had a pretty good game last week. I've never seen somebody have so many absolutely everything was on them 8-yard runs. Like he had to fight so hard for those runs because the interior offensive line was getting beat up that bad.
Well, it's about time. I mean, just like you said, he's better late than never. And I don't knock his effort there. And you're right. I mean, I'm minimizing because I'm frustrated with Melvin Gordon and I'm upset. Yeah. So you're right. I mean,
I never would have signed him, but
he had. You bet. He was the guy against the Raiders for whatever that meant. Use both of them. Use the hell out of them. And I'm like you, Nick. I'm not the biggest Philip Lindsay guy in the world either. I don't know that I would pay Phil, if I'm going to be completely honest with you. I don't know that I want Mel. I don't know that I want either one of them, if I'm going to be honest with you. For what Philip, I think, brings to the table with his playmaking abilities and stuff, Phil's going to want to get paid. He is gonna want to get paid, and rightfully so. I think he should get paid. These guys, fans try to knock these professional players for getting paid, but heck, I'd want to get paid. I'd go to the first team that's offering me the biggest deal. And if you're saying that you wouldn't, then I don't know. I might call BS on that one.
I'm questioning your judgment.
Yeah, because you got to think, man, we're living in a crazy world. And if you could lock down some financial security for your family, and Philip Lindsay's a father now, he's got a girlfriend, wife, what have you, you've got to take care of that family. Now, I've always said, and subscribe to the belief, watch what they do, not what they say. The Broncos don't like Philip Lindsay. They're not happy with Melvin Gordon, but I don't think they like Philip Lindsay, Nick.
I think they like Philip Lindsay. I just don't think they like him. We're going to take it back to middle school. Yeah, so it's just, you see it out there.
It's a crush. It's a fading crush.
I think he is somebody that they have right now that they are happy to hook up with, but they're not somebody they're ready to put the ring on. It's just like, I'm not taking her home to mom.
Side chick? Is Philip Lindsay the side chick they sometimes check in with and sometimes don't?
I think hopefully the Broncos will be, if we're going to go full in on this analogy, you stay single when it comes to the running back position. Just continually date younger, date young girls. High school girls. They stay the same age. That's exactly what they should be doing.
Oh Jesus! It's
Matthew McConaughey. It's that kind. That from the.
And I see what you're saying because they're a dime a dozen. They get tread on them. They get beat up. I mean, when I was watching Phil get ragdolled, I'm like, how did that 10 pounds help you that you put on over the offseason there? I mean, you can only do what you can do. And I like Phil. Go get paid. Do what you got to do. Kenneth Booker coming in here with the Philip Lindsay comment and super. Kenneth, you've been great tonight, man. It's great to see you back. Thanks for being on MHI, buddy. Philip Lindsay should start and draft a Sproles type. Oh, Darren Sproles, Nick. Who doesn't love them some Darren Sproles? Now, I know running backs aren't the most important thing ever, but Darren Sproles type. We haven't got completely into draft mode yet. I know you're peeking around it and poking it at the bear a little bit. I wait till December. Man, drafting. Keep Phil, get another back in here. That's essentially what we're saying. We could get on board with that for the right price, right?
I'd bring in Philip Lindsay back for the right price. I'd draft another running back for the right price. I'm just not looking to use an early draft pick on the running back position. Running backs do as well as their offensive line provides. And how many guys are in the box. So right now, you could have, we're seeing it right now with the Cowboys and Ezekiel Elliott. They have all these injuries on the offensive line, and Dak Prescott went out, and all of a sudden Ezekiel Elliott looks like an average back. It's because it's the system. So again, as you know how I feel about running backs. They're
I
just,
do.
I think
And
they're very replaceable, and
yes,
best
they
ones
are.
are the younger, cheaper ones.
You know what I want to see though, and I'll be really curious, and I want to look into it more, and we'll talk about it. Maybe off air a little bit. I'm curious to see your thoughts on the running backs that are used primarily as receivers, check downs, curl routes, flat routes. Then I'm a little more interested because you start to see these backs that can break off some runs, maybe in play action or so, but can also get out on a route or two. Then my ears perk up a little bit. It's not Philip Lindsay dropping the ball and all this other stuff. He's not a natural pass catcher, all that type of stuff. Would a pass catching back intrigue you a little bit?
It would intrigue me a little bit, but that being said, the type of targets that they get, while it is still pass game, they are typically so short in the depth that they do not provide as much value. You're looking for guys who can make explosive plays, and while there are running backs that can make yak ability, there's not much yards per attempt in those
Yeah.
passing outlets to those running backs. So while getting a guy like that, the classic, I think one that always comes to mind to me is Kevin Falk for the
Yeah.
Patriots. He was there for years, really solid. They did not pay him big money. They did not use a big draft resource to get him, but he was just solid. You can find guys like that every year. So there is value for it, but I'm just not breaking my back looking to find
Right.
somebody like that, pay somebody like that, draft somebody like that. I mean, look, the Panthers, what have they done? Well, they've had Christian McCaffrey on there. Now they've paid him and he's injured the whole time. It just, again, running backs, it's time and time again, it proves that you don't want to be married to them.
Look at
You
Todd
want to draft
Gurley.
young guys. You want to use them.
Look at Todd Gurley, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you just keep looking at it. And we got Black Knight coming in here as we start to wrap up our night here. Thank you, Black Knight. Appreciate you joining the show. Super chat. If you're the GM, Nick, do you fire the coaching staff? And if you do, who do you target in the offseason? Black Knight, I like that question. I like the way that you phrased it. And I tweeted at it this week, got a little bit of pushback or whatever. I hate it when other people call for other people's jobs and they don't have a replacement or an alternative solution in mind. I think it's a lazy take. You're just making a change for change's sake, right? You got to have a plan B. And maybe that's the Broncos' problem. They don't have a plan B right now. I like this question, Black Knight. If you're the GM, Nick, what do? Are you cleaning house? And if so, are you eyeing another coach? Are you eyeing some more brass? What does that look like?
I mean, if in a perfect world, you probably are at least putting some feelers in there for the coaching situation. But guys, Broncos are in financial trouble. I mean, with their ownership situation, they just do not have the cash. And it's not like players where you can move on from them and you can pay them only their guarantees that are left. Coaching contracts are 100% guaranteed. So if you move on from Vic Fangio, guess what? You're paying him 100% of his contract on top of whoever you're bringing in next year. And this Broncos team, with the state of the world right now, their economic issues, not having fans there, they're losing money, they're hemorrhaging money. Yep. I know they got the sports betting deals and everything, but this is not a cash rich team. Most of the cash rich teams in the NFL are teams that the ownerships, their finances actually come from outside of football. Teams that depend on the football income are ones that typically aren't the ones that can spend. So that's where the Broncos are right now. I just don't think they have the ability to move on from Vic Fangio. So I'd obviously look for an offensive young coach, a guru of some sort. Maybe Lincoln Riley, Dabo Sweeney, blah blah blah. I'm not in Dabo Sweeney. I'd be interested in Lincoln Riley, but it's just not going to happen. The Broncos are probably going to stick around with Vic Fangio unless this team completely bottoms out, which is possible. I just can't see them making that decision due to the financial situation.
If you have the rest of the season like you did the Raider game, then everyone's getting fired. But I don't expect that. I don't think it's likely. Now, they could lose out, but it's a matter in which you lose out. And I think I would expect them to come back as well. I saw a Raider fan in here trolling us earlier saying he's rooting for us. Well, hey, man, I really appreciate you joining the MHI. Just so you know, I am not rooting for you guys tomorrow night at all. I hope you guys get the doors beat off of you. I mean, absolutely. The Chiefs, man, they're gonna dog you. They got some get back coming for the silver and black. At least I hope, because the Raiders are definitely trending up, as much as I hate to say that. But we got James coming in here as we start to wrap up our show. Elway not having a contract extension might be why his players aren't getting one. He may want to let the next GM pick and choose their own players. James, that's an interesting theory. I'm going to pick it apart. Now, I appreciate the super. John Elway is the most competitive person in the world, right? That's all we hear, all we read, everything. I mean, he lost a poker game or a pool game to Bubby Brister and sold the pool table the next day. He's a sore loser. He's got that competitive juices in him. He's not saving or thinking about his replacement at all. I can guarantee you that. What are your thoughts, Nick?
I mean, I think John Elway and Vic Fangio, Andrew Luck, all of these were probably John Elway's potentially last hurrah in figuring out what's going on. I mean, he's been spending less and less time in Dove Valley, apparently, and looking for life beyond football. Obviously, he doesn't want to go out like this, but it's trending that way. So I think Vic Fangio will still get another year. Maybe they will bring in somebody where John Elway can be more of that pure president, but it feels like this was John Elway's last real hurrah, and the way they're trending is just not the way that anybody had hoped. So we got Kenneth Book. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, right? If you caught 7 in a room and Joe Ellis in a room and you're having a stogie and a cold pop with him and you ask him just in confidence, hey, man, you think maybe you would have walked away, a few years ago, Super Bowl 50? You think maybe looking back on that, that would have been the right time? I think you might be surprised in the answer.
Yeah. But then, he had to try to carve out his legacy beyond Peyton Manning as the GM. So, and it's not over. Just for like Drew Lock. I'm not ready to write the book on it. The
jury's out. And
yes,
and we're going to be consistent in saying that. And I like that because we're doubling down on that. We're waiting to see. This can absolutely happen.
So, yep, we got Kenneth Booker coming in, drafted Danny Woodhead type. That's 4th round. I'm all about it. If you're talking day 3, at that point, it's a lottery ticket. So we're talking day 3. You can take a running back. I'm just not about paying running backs big second contracts. I'm also not about using a top 50 pick on a running back position unless you feel you're like a Super Bowl contender right now and that team can get you, that running back can get over the hump in like the next season or two. Even then, makes me a little bit nervous. I think the Chiefs probably would have been better out. Like the Chiefs.
Yes,
I was Edwards player. Just take a defensive player. Like really,
I was just going to ask you,
or an offensive line player.
I was just going to ask you about that. I think it's gone down just a little bit for the Chiefs and the optimism. I mean, week 1, week 2, crazy stuff. But speaking of picks, let's get to our game picks real quick as we finish up the show. Nick, man, in my gut, I want to tell you that Drew Lock is going to bounce back. It's not going to be pretty. It's going to be ugly. He's going to throw a couple picks, but he's also going to throw a couple touchdowns. That being said, I've got the Dolphins winning in this one. I think I've got a score of like 33-16 or something like that. Special teams is going to make all the difference. The special teams unit for the Dolphins it's kick butt, man. What can I say? They get touchdowns. They block punts, and the Broncos give up touchdowns and stuff like that. So special teams, man, that's just going to be another phase of unraveling for the Broncos. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I get to come back and just eat crow. And Drew is dancing and everything's good. But right now, man, I got the Dolphins winning.
Yeah, I have the Dolphins winning 30-17. I think this is going to be a game where the Broncos offense is going to really struggle. I think Brian Flores is probably honestly, it could end up being the best Bill Belichick disciple to lead the Patriots. Yep. And like I said, this Miami versus Buffalo rivalry coming up in the AFC looks like a lot of fun. So it's going to be unfortunate. I'm just really hoping Drew Lock has some flashes, starts to make progress, but I know he's injured. I know this Dolphins defense they're scheming up extremely well right now. And it seems like a perfect storm for Drew Lock to really struggle. So again, 31-17 for the Dolphins over 30-17 over the Dolphins over the Broncos. So we got a couple more.
Yeah, over 30. That tends to be the trend, man. Richie Rich.
It's the turnovers. Like I said earlier, it's the turnovers. So
and Richie Rich coming up in here, man. He's feeling like we are. 31-21 Miami. Lock gets left in the game hurt. I think that's a fairly realistic one. Lock could get hurt. I'm worried about that rib plate, and I know we're getting out the door real quick, but that rib protector, man, that causes fumbles. Fumbles when you're hit, and Drew Lock, the last thing we need is fumbles when we're already getting interceptions.
I'm just hoping that the Broncos trenches play a little better this week and we see some flashes from the quarterback. We'll see. And the young guys, Hamler, Judy, go out there, make some plays. Let's get excited about the future because the Broncos right now, it's kind of like an old house. It's kind of falling apart, but I still think the house has good bones. I think there's reason for optimism long-term. It's just right now it's a little bit dilapidated. Not ready to say condemned, but there's issues going on. But we'll see what happens tomorrow with the Broncos. Obviously, we appreciate everyone coming on for us Saturday night. As always, great show. Can't wait for football tomorrow. Also, shout out to Buana Beast for producing work in the background. We couldn't do this without you. You can find Luke on Twitter at Luke Patterson LP and myself at Nick Kendell MHH. Guys, go over to milehighhuddle.com for all our written content. Obviously, the Broncos are struggling, but we got draft stuff coming soon. We're still here for you. I think we're more consistent than the Broncos have been this season. So that's great. Go to iTunes, leave us a 5-star rating and a comment, like, subscribe, and share. If you like us on YouTube, that helps us a heck of a lot. On Facebook, click those thumbs up. Doing so can really help us. It's not just us. Obviously, you like us at the Mile High Insiders here. That's why you're still here with us right now. We also have Building the Broncos. We also have the Huddle Up podcast. We have the Dove Valley Deep Divers. We're here every single day of the week. I mean, we really are here every single day of the week. And join us or not, that's fine. The comment section is always rolling, so you're welcome to join us. Also, make sure you follow us on Twitter at Mile High Huddle and at MHI_football pod. For Luke Patterson, I'm Nick Kendell, wrapping up another episode of the Mile High Insiders. Guys, always got to leave you with a go Broncos. And also, everybody, stay safe. I'm not going to tell you what to do with your Thanksgiving, but just please stay safe, make smart decisions, and let's hope for in the world itself, a better tomorrow. Just Broncos and the world itself. We love you all. Stay safe.
Go Broncos.